Well, this is typical. I was expecting I'd actually be getting ready to pick up Donkey Kong and also be starting up my third and final volume of Master Journey's Vlogs. But once again, it seems that the has that Horizons has made a decision that basically got half the fan base up in arms and which has caused its defenders to try pleading in vain for some form of sanity. Hey, and seriously, hey, if you were to ask me whether or not the blowback is Kalos League Finals bad, guys, I'd say some of the vitriol being shown here is Tobias bad. So here is once again, and at her sleeping on it, and it's and as part of another video I'll probably be doing, other videos I'll probably do on Horizon soon. Own is a 25-year plus Pokemon veterans reaction to the Geeta battle in Horizons episode 79 over the top. I honestly wish it was the Sylvester Stallone film about cross-country arm wrestling tournaments, so let's begin. Admittedly, it doesn't start on the worst note, beginning as the episodes sometimes do in Medea's Res, is, which is actually a technique I'd actually would appreciate being used more in the anime, where they're in the middle of something and sometimes about to finish a storyline and we're dropping in on them, which other fans have done before, which after the intro, oh, cuts to them requesting permission to enter Area Zero to search for gouging fire. Or believe me, I was going to be addressing that one first because I honestly would have thought that was more disappointing after, about a year or two of build up of saying they're going to find Entei and then, nope, it's gouging fire. But it's another one I think this episode manifests where it's not the idea about Horizon my sometimes have issues with, but its execution and how it decides what to keep and what to change from the games. I wouldn't say it's as bad as the Borderlands movie deciding that Lilith was an Iridian descent being a twist, even though that's one of the first things you learn about her in the games. Believe me, we'll talk another time. But when the DLC expansions and the game up to this point did a fairly good job of actually rehabilitating your character, to suddenly toss all that out with a single battle certainly does not do this anime any favors at all. Admittedly, I have done my best to not compare Horizons to the previous seasons with you know who, including its immediate predecessor whenever necessary, unless absolutely necessary. But people claiming that this is a separate entity from the games, I'm sorry, that's not really that sufficient defense at all. I mean, as I continually pointed out before, or that doesn't really hold up as a defense when Detective Pikachu's movie is clearly set up being an fictional universe. Her saying keeping a lot of the right elements from not only its own spin-off game, but the anime and the main games as well. To say nothing about how the Super Mario reboots managed to take all the best elements from nearly 40 years of game canon, and how successfully the Sonic movies have been able to incorporate 8 elements from the games into actually pretty entertaining adventuring buddy pictures with sci-fi infusion. And In fact, regarding that last one, I keep hoping at some point there actually will be like a way to unify the canon of the games, aims, and their adaptations, kind of like how Sega implanted that mandate from Sonic Adventure onward. I mean, right? So, and let's just say that I mentioned before, I'm okay with changing things in adaptation if the changes make logical sense for the different medium. That's why I tend to gravitate so much towards versions of Batman that lean to detective aspect of the character as much as the superhero one, if not more so, or why I I definitely don't mind when and that or Spider-Man decides to bypass the origin story, maybe because enough of the general public has a burden in their brain, and that they just want to get to the action as quick as they can, and so it's. But like I said, had had Geeta had already been taking heat for being one of the easier her champions. In fact, I didn't have much of an issue with that as much as other people did, but there's a reason why I personally considered facing off against a real the actual rivals of each storyline, as well as like the final quest of base game Area Zero to be the real final challenges, Scarlet and Violet, myself. Yeah. Admittedly, from a rate, I mean, from the animation perspective, it's as slick as ever. I mean, whoever's working on this episode definitely, and I mean sincerely whenever I do talk about the animators, definitely deserve a raise. I mean, it's really, once again, the writing that does it in. I mean, on paper, a multi-battle of to show how things have progressed. This is not the worst idea ever. And while it has been pointed out they did face, in their own way, a lot of the gym leaders and their late four, but again, the way they implemented that and how the reveal of the next Switch is imminent, as well as more details on Legend Z8, to say nothing of Precision Talk about Generation 10, and now means they have to rush to wrap things up. I mean, I was initially grateful that their plan was to do that, but now the way it's going, and now that the fan base is kind of on fire right now, I mean, I want to make clear I'm not going to mean anything against you if you like this episode, but there's just something about how focused on Glimmer and Emmett, two of them, that doesn't really lie with me. I know the intent is to prepare them from what's going on in Area Zero. However, given how common when those ones are in there, and the RHC has shown to be encountering going after gouging fire, as well as the fact that the explorers, a whole other mess I'll be addressing in a moment, and are encountering Screamtail, that's not really comparable. I mean, much like how, again, a casual fishing competition between a couple friends is not comparable to a coordination series. And no, I will not stop pointing that out. I won't unless or until people realize that. Granted, there's some other minor inconsistencies as well, such as the fact that toxic spikes only affect monsters being switched out rather than and the ones that are already on the field, unless they're steel type, which would be immune to poison, was one of my key countermeasures. And and also just how, to my knowledge, Dazzling Gleam is not a move that lowers accuracy. It does at times lower other stats, that's depending on the severity of the hits. And I think it's another situation, like I've pointed out before, where it's not. My personal issue is not the battle itself, which is honestly fine. It looks good, and how it's animated. It's definitely very bright and colorful, and I do like how they actually made use of the of the platform from the games, but it's the outcome which I definitely believe made a lot of people angry. And despite Horizons defenders claiming otherwise, it's another situation where, to an extent at least I think the dislike their experience these episodes justified. In fact, it's not just people who were just by design not on board with the new direction or really skeptical of it, but I mean, there are a reaction I've been fielding in who's on undisclosed right now, how from people who have been following in the show since it started and pointed out how that this actually makes less sense the more it's looked at. Admittedly, my perspective is unique for a few factors. Varies between my age, the number I've attached to my fandom here since I got skin in the game, and also the fact that I just came off making a video about how conflicted I've been and about how the previous storyline, which has now spilled over into this one, the Rayquaza Rising, and in fact, it's definitely why I am one of those who believe that they overcorrected from previous stories they told. I mean, if you want to shake things up for your audience, that's totally fine, but I think there is definitely should be some baseline boundaries about what you should keep and what you should change, and especially since Glamora is the only one of Geeta's roster to appear here, and their attempts to defend it, like if she had one of her partners, such as Go-Goat, things would be a different story. Well, there's a problem right there. Of course, this would be different if she had her Veluza in there, let alone anything else she's got in her roster. In fact, let's pull things up again, and to absolutely sure about this, and it's definitely another example of how the idea wasn't bad, but the implementation is quite the missed opportunity, I would say. I mean, Avalog, King Gambit, Espartha, a police pronunciation there. Even and when her with a League Club, when she swaps out Go-Goat for Chestnut, and also Veluza for Dragapult, since any of those I think actually could have been more effective, since I did see a few spawns of the Dragapult line inside there, so it also compounds, like, even though it's clear to me that a lot of the people working on the show at the very least understand and anime, I don't think they fully understood Pokemon personally, which is something I think I would like to also see changed going forward in the in the future. Though the win does give them the green light to head into Area Zero to go after gouging fire, I personally tuned out when I started talking about Pagogo because I'm honestly not really that invested in any of that. Nor with Crave being double dealing at his workplace and being Amethio's dad. I mean, and again, the two explorers being sent in there, and the operatives that you send rather than, and say, hey, some of the higher level admins, which could have made the stakes a bit higher, they sent hints in Cole and Sidian, who seem to have taken now Zeranconia's role of being Jesse and James Scrolls, at least in this point in the story, since and despite Hamber trying to claim that Cole is adaptable, in reality she's an impulsive loudmouth who, even though he's given specific orders to observe, I'd be willing to stake Jedi power battles that she's definitely not going to obey said orders, since she has a very absolutely terrible track record of doing that thus far in the story. If I'm being completely honest, both looks and personality, they remind me of both Gamagoi Era and Jakuzue no from Kill la Kill, minus what made those characters interesting to me. And just as well, I think I should start wrapping this up. As we are nearing this video be nearly as long as the episode that started all this, I'm going to be carefully blunt as I'm known to be. While I do not feel as strongly about this episode as others do, it is inherently clear here that it's starting to have some problems with the story. That perhaps if things were a bit more connected, it could have worked more. And also, since it seems to corroborate the Terror League detailing that when the show started being pitched, they actually didn't have access to the source material, hence its rather bizarre application of it. There'll be another video to address that, but they're claiming, a lot of people claim that the events, the video games already happened, which is honestly a shame. Even though there have been a lot of differing opinions on technological aspects of Scarlet and Violet, though things improved lots since launch build, I definitely can share the sentiment the story was a good one, as were its characters. I would have been way more on board with seeing that adapted into an anime as opposed to what the result has been here. What's the point of even including Penny in this episode if you don't give her any lines? Given how beloved a character she is in the fanbase. Really is telling that because you could have had someone else in the background tone instead. You gotta treat these characters like actual characters, not just like props with a pulse, And it really is a shame that an incarnation of franchise that actually was trying to sell itself on story and character has so many issues with those aspects. Hopefully, whether they just adapt the game characters for future installments or just bring back Who, they can take that idea, the ideas here, and use them as a learning experience and it's for the next attempt. And there will be one on, and I will now get back to doing what I actually wanted to, who that being talking about Master Journeys and Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. That'll be all for now. I'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.